Robin.
You're listening to Opie and Anthony. On the virus. Sirius XM.
We're back live. David Lee Roth is here with us today, and of course Florentine. Now
wait a second. You know what else television also needs? And I say this every time I sit down and watch, especially at 5 in the morning when I don't want to upset the other apartments and everything, is a control that sets a volume level for your television. You say 100 dB, well, I'm rock and roll, 52 dB, whatever, and no matter what plays, it rings in at 52 decibels. If you're listening on your headsets or it's playing whatever, because when the commercials come on, sometimes they blast on, right? Or during the actual movie itself, it turns into the love scene, and you're having to get really, really close, and then somebody shoots, and it's blast. How come nobody has invented a thing that just stabilizes the volume?
Don't they have that? I thought they did have that.
I think I've seen on an infomercial, there is like a little contraption you can put on the back of your TV. And it's supposed to...
I think that's to actually steal the show. I have that.
Oh, is that?
Oh, yeah, for free cable.
The FCC was supposed to pass a law about that because they were putting in the commercials way too loud.
Yeah.
Way louder than the regular... that's when they were blaring and stuff like that. They put like a decibel limit on it, but it still happens.
So when it blasts on, does it make a better impression on you? Does it stick more solidly when that guy jumps on and starts screaming about the chopper and the chillo and the snuggie and one in that Australian accent? You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's awful. Okay. It makes you look. They just want you to look. That's all they do.
Again, though, I'll never forget what's his name. None of us know his name, but you know instantly who I'm talking about. He's made an impression. Again, in a sea of people trying to make an impression.
Do you know what they did once for a drug commercial? They wanted people to look. It was about overdose or whatever it was. Is they went silent. They went totally silent because they knew that the lack of noise would get people to look at the TV in a commercial time.
Okay, that works maybe once. That's like in the movies when they're short on budget and they go, no, it's the mystery of the darkness. We're going to use the mystery of the unseen.
You think that wears thin pretty quickly?
Well, you can do it once.
Yeah.
Like in the movie The Cat People or whatever, it's all darkness, and what's in the darkness? I don't fucking know, Jim. And it's okay, that works once. Then you got to come with some production.
Right.
Follow. So
now you're here today. You're a martial artist, and it was an interesting combination.
I practice Nike Jiu-Jitsu. Any trouble shows up, I put on my Nikes, I run.
Do you watch UFC?
Oh, religiously.
Oh, you do? Okay. So
oh my goodness.
Do you know who Anderson Silva is?
Of course, I know who Anderson Silva is.
You never know. I have to ask.
No. This is a real conversation because is the UFC going to replace boxing? Ultimately, is the UFC going to replace professional wrestling? Which one will be the number one, the number two, and number three? These are really good questions because it says more about the audience than it does about the actual sport. Also, UFC, professional wrestling, and boxing are the only three sports virtually every country, every nationality.
Right.
And there's probably 800 of them. I think there's 800 languages spoken in New York City alone, okay? I just saw that on the TV set. All 800 languages understand UFC.
And they know who won immediately. You don't need anything. You don't need to tally anything up. It's the guy laying on the floor that lost. That's
what the fuck is cricket?
Right.
That's a character in Disney, right? What's lacrosse? That's a place in Wisconsin. No, these are popular sports that are national sports or whatever, but I don't understand the rules. We don't have them in common. I love watching rugby, and I still don't have any idea how it's played. I've actually played it, and I have no idea how it's played. So,
you think, is this going to take over? I think it's already passing boxing as far as... boxing will never go away, but I think this is kind of becoming more popular with people under 21. I don't hear anybody talking about boxing.
Ding, 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 ding.
Nah,
Does boxing belong to a generation?
An older generation.
Yeah, speak to that.
Because they take too long to get to big matches. There's been too many bad things. Too much corruption has happened and too much bullshit with matches we wanted to see that didn't happen. And I think with UFC, they're giving you so many big matches that there's too many people for people to get excited about. And there's too many people for you to lock on and like. I'm excited with every other major UFC thing. I'm like, oh, I got to go. Like, I love so many of the things they're doing. 6 or 7 a year. year I'm dying to go to.
And the fighting style, too, is so much more relatable. And because when you watch boxing, you're thinking in a real-life scenario, why aren't you kicking? Why aren't you?
Relatable to what? 2 in the morning, about 4 blocks south of here? Yes, because I'm going to agree with that.
But,
I will concur. You put down the Red Bull and go, what'd you fucking say?
Yeah.
And it looks a lot more like Anderson Silva on a winning streak, if you're lucky, right? It does ring that bell. It's a lot closer. Boxing is really stylized, we know from when we would imitate the guys in the 1800s with the big mustache and everything, and you kind of put your hands up like this, and you put your little finger up, like when you're holding a teacup, and it's John L. Sullivan, or Gentleman Jim, or those kinds of 82 rounds of whatever. I'm going to wonder if boxing is now a part and parcel, for example, of a classic rock generation.
Maybe, yeah.
Because clearly Joltin' Joe Frazier, and all of his legends, why was Frazier's left so strong? It's because his father had no left arm. Grew up on a farm, and every time they had to handle those 55-gallon milk cans.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Joe got to use his left arm.
Wow.
So by the time he was in 8th grade, he could leave some serious divots in the heavy bag with that left arm. It was 2.5 sizes bigger than his right. There's no magic to that.
What would you rather watch, boxing or UFC, though? Which for you is more exciting to watch?
Depends on the personality. It's a good question. Depends on the personality of the individual. Let's dial around the time zone here. Things are getting all wavy. I should eat breakfast. We go back to Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. That's like a prison yard fight with one howling, screaming guy who was probably closer to professional wrestling. He admitted since then he was imitating Gorgeous George, the wrestler. Muhammad Ali was, I'm the greatest, I'm the beautifulest, I'm the prettiest. And it sounds like, one of the guys from WWE.
Do you remember that fight, the Liston fight? Because Sonny Liston was not good at the back and forth. He was not good at going back and forth, and he tried to, bet your money on Sonny. You ever see that video of Sonny Liston trying to come back at Ali verbally, and it was just it was humiliating.
You had to listen to it on a radio. You had not even started closed circuit in the movie theaters yet. That came a little bit later, and I had one of the early little black and white first Sony radios, okay? And you had one of those little earplugs that looks more like a hearing aid, just fit into one ear. You dig like that. And those made so much noise that you still had to hide under the covers to listen to it. And there were 2 fights between Ali and Liston. And in one of them, Liston, quote unquote, threw the fight. He was involved when, he was all mobbed up. Well, all of boxing is and was, but he played the silent, deadly, menacing thug on the prison yard role. And Ali had not started his, in support of the
Nation of Islam.
Well, yeah, he was Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
So he was still an uppity N-word, and that infuriated everybody. And that just, we fell in love with him as little hippies. Are you kidding? As little rock and rollers. Are you kidding? What could possibly represent us better? Unless maybe it was Jimi Hendrix, and I'm prepared to argue that.
That's the fight you're talking about that they thought Ali threw. I mean, that the Liston threw. That's like the Phantom Punch, they call it. That was the second fight. And when you look at slow motion, like they've slowed that down enough, you could see Ali hit him so hard that he physically lifted Liston up. Like that second punch, he really did clock him. But it looks like it was so fast, it looks like he just kind of faked it and fell down. But I've seen that slow down, and you can see Ali hits him so hard that Sonny lifts up. Like he really fucking.
Ali was in on this too, or was it just Liston that was in on it with the fix?
It actually wasn't a fix.
Oh, what? Oh, no. I thought it was.
No. It was actually.
That's urban legend. The legend was that I think Liston was in jail, and then somebody threw him off a balcony later.
He died young, man.
Stories. I don't want to get in the way of a good rumor.
He was a fucking Sonny Liston was a dock worker. I think he was an enforcer on the docks in Philly or wherever he was. He was a tough fucking.
Not a lot of heavyweight champions out of Hebrew school, huh? No, not a lot of heavyweight champions graduating out of bar mitzvah class. Eh?
Philly's a fucking rough place, man. I mean, who else? Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, Meldrick Taylor, Bernard Hopkins. There's a lot of great fighters that come out.
Rocky.
I almost said Rocky.
You know what? That's interesting that out of all those faces and everything, the one guy who gets the attention is the Italian Stallion. I've been practicing that.
It's excellent.
3 syllables, one solid slamming career. That's right, Jimmy.
So it depends on the personalities. Now, let's say today, because I don't know.
I don't know who's got the personality. I saw Tyson doing the promotion for his fight that he's promoting, and he had more pizzazz and lightning and thunder than the two guys that he was promoting. Did you see any of this? He's even pushing him, going, "Come on!" I'm hesitant to imitate him in case I run into him.
Floyd Mayweather's got personality.
Floyd Mayweather does. Yes, he Mayweather does.
But that's even Pacquiao. I mean, he's fun to watch, but he doesn't,
There's a humility they don't
promos.
have that the UFC guys do. There's something really, because they don't really, Chael has a great personality. Anderson's kind of quiet.
Chael's another one that, just like Dave was saying, that is doing wrestling shtick.
Yeah.
When he's out there, he's doing the same thing Ali was doing.
It's fun to watch Manny Pacquiao now because he has carried with him the friction of time. On his shoulders is his wife's career, a 92-person entourage. Do you follow? He's a governor, he's a senator. He's involved in charity, you follow, and this is a classic story, is all of a sudden, you are in demand, and how much of those doorbells do you answer, you follow? Yeah. It's like when you watch on MTV. I haven't watched recently, but you could see a lot of time the girls, they get a brand new cute little gal, would be a VJ, and in about 90 days, which is metric for 3 months, she gets what's called dinner butt. And that's because now she's in demand. And she, drop by for dinner, drop by for drinks after dinner, drop by for some dessert after drinks after dinner.
Right.
And, your pant size expands after a while. And that's happening to Manny, is that Manny has so many distractions and so many other things pushing and pulling. You only have so many calories per day that you're going to be able to focus on any given thing that you do. And I think it's showing up in his fight game. I think he's a fabulous fighter. He's certainly a
How
great
old
person.
is he?
Jesus, he's in his early 30s, is he not?
I thought he was older than that, Pacquiao.
Maybe
you might be right.
So.
I thought I don't follow boxing like I used to. I thought he was.
Dave makes a good point because that's why the sports teams never repeat the next season most of the time, because they have that off season where they're doing all this stuff. They just want, the Super Bowl or the World Series, and they're doing all these personal appearances, and then there's not. The next year they always suck, and then the year after that they play good again and they win a Super Bowl or a World Series.
There's only so many calories that you can possibly spend. You only have so much focus power, and it's the product of being that single-minded obsession. It's the one thing that everybody tells you, you gotta reach out to other people. You gotta become part of the community. You have to have a family. You have to be, affiliate with other folks and everything, when it was the single-minded obsession to the point of becoming a fucking hermit that got you the heavyweight title or the platinum record, or that allowed you to write the Pulitzer prize-winning novel or what have you.
What do they call it? The sophomore jinx for a second album or a second book or whatever
but
it
Dave,
is.
now how come that didn't happen with a band like Van Halen or any big band, when you guys are on top, everything, parties at Studio 54, private planes? How do you come back from that huge tour, put another great album out, go do another huge tour, where you guys don't lose a little?
I think that's a good question. Is most artists, and I've been told this by folks who are part of the setup, the lighting crew, the carpenters, the staging, even the wardrobe folks, the gals who do all of this, and they say, just recently one of the gals said to me, Dave, you're one of the few artists I work with who actually enjoys all of the preparation and the setup and the in-between. Most of the people, she said, that I work with, and she works with all the big ones, all the biggies with no last name, the Madonna, Beyonce, Dave.
All the hot chicks.
all the verbs, Sting, Cher, Usher. These are verbs. And she said, for the most part, most folks don't do anything until about 8 weeks before that tour. About 6 8 weeks before that album. About 6 8 weeks before you launch the play on Broadway or start shooting for the movie. You practice with your sword or your ray gun or your motorcycle, whatever it is you signed up to portray in the film. But that most of the folks who are doing those pursuits don't really enjoy it beyond that. It's very finite. And in Van Halen, I wouldn't be surprised if right now, this evening, the fellas get together and start jamming. They do at least 3 times a week, sometimes 4 and 5. just because that's what we do. Good writers write.
Right.
You know, good singers sing, and the band gets together and works routinely. I routinely am working lyrics. It's a muscle that is perishable, like gun handling or cooking. If you don't do it, you lose it.
Let me ask you a question, because there's something about Sabbath where they said Ozzy would get a beat and he would just kind of start singing like ridiculous lyrics over it just to get a singing tempo down. Will you come up with something and go, okay, this is what I want the song to be, or will they come up with a riff and go, hey, do you have anything for this, or does it work both ways?
It can work a number of different ways. If the music comes first, I'll work that out with, whoever. I've written with a variety of folks. And then from that, you'll either try something rhythmic to it, and then you'll try to put the words to the rhythm you've created. Something like, what could that be? I don't know. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Great. Do something like that. You came up with the rhythm first. Or you wrote those lyrics long before the music ever happened. And, you'll find the emotional content that's happening in a given piece of music. And then from that, hopefully you have a whole repertoire of, different songs and titles and subject matter and so forth. That, it's like when you take a racehorse into the blacksmith. He's going to take a look at your horse and go, okay, well, he's a little different over here. You know what? I know just the shoe, and then I'll bend it a little here, and I can kind of tweak it there, what distances you running, what's the subject matter, so to speak, like that. And the way that you write lyrics can happen a number of different ways as well. We all love to believe that Jesus speaks through us. I am but the conduit. You've heard that horse shit.
Yeah.
I sit in the room and it just comes to me. Yeah, well, what's been coming to you is Moon in June rhymes with when's it going to happen? Soon. Nice, Bob. Down. Fuck. And I'm going to eat it with a knife. Oh, fuck. How much time do I have? A fork? It's June. Soon. I'm going to eat it with a spoon. Oh, that's excellent. And you write that down, and you wind up with that, over and over. Put your hands in the air like you just don't care. Is what happens when you just sit on the stool by yourself in the room and hope that the fates deal with you. The gods do not punish you with a lightning bolt, but with time. Time extended, time wasted, and of course my favorite, your time's up. Here's a better way to do it. Here's a much better way to do it. And again, there's no magic to this. None of this shit miracles itself into place. I have notebooks that I'll keep. Some of them I've had for over 20 years. And as I hear little parts and parcel of conversation, part and parcel, just write that down. Sounds like a song title. You follow? And maybe there's lyrics. I just saw a bumper sticker. It said, no talent, no skills, just heart. Hey, sounds like a pickup truck to me. Who's driving the pickup truck? There's your story. Okay. Now I saw it on a movie, a grade B cowboy movie or something, and the fella says to the school marm, well, I ain't that smart, man, but I sure can lift heavy things. There's one of your first lines in the song. Yeah. But you won't know all of that until you have a fat notebook full of, bits and pieces of what people say, things from the movies, bumper stickers, things from sports advertisements, and you can let them age too. If you get something out of a sports advertisement, let it go for 10 years or whatever and bring it back. I think it was for Nike or Adidas. It says, when was the last time you did something for the first time? Whew, that sounds like some Buddhist shit to me. Right. It's a good way to kick off the weekend. Certainly a great way to sell shoes. 10 years later, nobody even cares where that came from, and you sampled it. This is a big year for sampling. Get with it. Do you have any modern, man? Do you have any stuff?
Eminem does that a lot. He'll bring up stuff. He'll bring Pee Wee Herman. Remember, like 2 albums ago, he was bringing up like Pee Wee Herman stuff and stuff. Stuff that was from 15 years ago.
Oh, you can bring up expressions that people have used. Bang, zoom to the moon, like from the Honeymooners. Right. To the moon, Alice. That right there could well be not hip hop. I'd use that for electronica. For ghostwriting, for something like that. Bang, zoom, parentheses, to the moon remix. There you go. But you ain't going to be able to have that off the top of your head, especially under the pressure with all the neckties looking through the window and the clock on the clubhouse wall goes 10,000. $10,500, $10,580.
Right.
The clock will speak to you if you're not careful.
Is there anything you've wanted to make work? Like, I've written jokes that just never took form. Is there anything you've written down or something you thought had some potential that you've just, in all these years, never been able to make work? Or like, fuck, I had that little thing I thought I could do something with, and it was just a momentary thing that was never been able to be made into anything
Only if
good.
you don't do compiling. It's called compiling, and it's the way you would prepare for a legal case, a debate. It's the way that you would prepare for an ultimate fighting contest. You follow. You're going to get all of your chops and all of your ideas in advance so that it all becomes second and third nature. And if you're stuck on a subject, for example, I like to, I have an inner voice. I have several of them, actually. And one of them is one of my old teachers from social sciences. He sounds like he's talking to us in film class. He used to walk up and down the aisles, you know, with his hands behind his back and go, gentlemen, all of us were 12 years old, gentlemen, today we're going to write a poem about a chair. And everybody would groan. Oh, fuck. Well, can we write about what goes on in the chair? Snigger, snigger, laugh at you. Yeah, certainly, if it's done poetically, Mr. Roth. You know?
Right.
And so I give myself little challenges sometimes. And I wrote a song about a chair. Okay. Pick us the most difficult subjects that you possibly can. And if you compile your ideas before you sit down to nail the shoe onto the horse, so to speak, then you're never going to get that writer's
You mean
block.
like a chair is hard, a chair is steady, or a chair is full? All of these facts about a chair almost, or these different random thoughts about a chair that you could somehow compile into a final thing?
Well, I wrote down, what's my favorite chair? I like those plastic ones that just come in one piece, and everybody owns a couple. They sit on every porch. They're in every white trash backyard. They're at every beach, every Club Med. You know, they stack them vertically. Yeah. So the title of my song is One Piece Thermal Molded Country Plastic Chair. Okay.
Right.
And I wrote down lyrics. You know, I wrote down little bits and fragments about, well, I like the green ones. They make me feel tropical. The white ones are basic model. I like that, you know. And, like, where do prophets go? Prophets used to go up to sit on top of the mountain. Ain't no mountains around here. This is New York. You sit in a one-piece thermal molded country plastic chair up on a fucking roof if you're lucky to be close to the roof and have a key to the door. You're a prophet.
Right.
And I start to put all of these ideas down onto the paper. Do you follow? And then when it's time to start putting your rhymes together, you have a whole lot more ideas. You have many more ideas, you know. And there ain't no mountain around here. Sit quietly by the river of life. You hear that shit from all these fake Buddhists all the time. What river? The East River? Write that down. What fucking river? Question mark. Because you can have that, you know. And I've done, I'm going to say, more Van Halen songs than not in that. I also ghostwrite for other people and have for a number of years, you know. And you can change the style. You can change the tone, the temperament. You're never going to have writer's block if you're doing that. If you're trying to think of an explanation for something, you just can't keep throwing yourself at it. You know, compile the ideas like you would for a debate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, if you come into the room as a lyricist and come in a room with personal lyrics, and the rest of the band looks at you like, Dave, can you come up with something better? Or, you know, this is kind of, these lyrics really don't fit this music. What happens there? Do you go, look,
it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare.
So they're pretty cool when you come in.
To it. Now, you know, if you are lyrically, if you're dialed into the lyrics, you know, a lot of people are. You know, Bob Dylan fans will tell you probably number one on the list is the lyrics. Number two is the melody and the whatever, you know. In material like Van Halen, you don't have to speak English as a first language at all. It's probably even better. Like Stravinsky said, you know, my music's best understood by animals and small children. Well, my music is best purchased by animals historically, because you don't have to speak English. So you can't fool you with it. It's authentic in its confidence. It's authentic in its sense of humor. It's authentic in its sense of confrontation. And you can sense that, you know, you're not fooled by the language or whatever. But there are very real stories there, and there's a lot of questions that are presented, you know. I wrote a song on this last record about tattooing, and on the surface, it sounds like, oh, another girls, cars, let's party or whatever. But it asks a whole lot of questions like, why is the crazy shit we would never say become poetry and ink? And there's a whole lot that if you care about it, you can delve in. If not, you don't have to pay attention to the lyrics at all. Like I said, Van Halen music works perfectly. Even if you don't speak English at all, we are equally as reviled and celebrated internationally as we are in English-speaking neighborhoods. Now,
I'm thinking about personal lyrics though, because there's this one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs is called "When the Tigers Broke Free." I think Roger Waters wrote about his father being killed in the war. And it didn't make the original album and the reason that was given was it was just too personal. And I'm like, that must have been so offensive to come in with a song about something that means so much that whatever happened, and they said, it just doesn't fit. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? If someone has something that means so much to them, but it doesn't reach the other band members
I like the first part first. It was just so personal that it couldn't be played.
That was what their reason was.
It was so personal that I can't let you listen to it.
Right.
Now we're entering into Spinal Tap turf.
No, the band didn't like it.
You don't understand, Jim.
The band didn't want it on.
It's the best song I've ever written, but it's so personal. I can't play it for you.
So you think that was what? Do you think they said that because they didn't like it?
I think they said that because they're full of Groucho Marx. You enter into this turf of what was his routine about. I put together a band and we charged only so much for when we played. Turns out we're more popular when we don't play. So right. I had to charge more when we don't play. Now, when we don't play, we don't rehearse. You can run into some serious money if we don't play and we don't rehearse. And it turns out, you don't understand, Jim. It's so personal that I couldn't bear to record it. That's bullshit.
Okay,
is what that is.
So that was what Roger Waters said that the band's reason was for not wanting to put it on the record. Was that it was too specific to him or whatever? Maybe
so they probably just didn't like the song.
Maybe they just didn't like the song. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, it sounds like he may be making. Okay, I understand.
Maybe.
He's creating another reason. Okay, and maybe it wasn't up to par. But as far as being too personal, how is that possible with artists out there like Peaches, the Teachers of Peaches, and all of this kind of stuff? There's no way you could be too personal. Some of the stuff that Springsteen has created out there. There's no way you can get too personal. In any department of your life, social, sexual, political, or whatever.
So maybe the rest of the band just didn't like the fucking song, and
that
was what they said. Like, it's just too specific to you.
Yeah, and it's all God. The more personal it is. What is it that really sells the music if you don't speak the language? Is that it's authentic, that it's confident, and that it is personal to you. If it's not real, if it's fake, you're making it up. If you're pretending to be a cowboy and you ain't no cowboy, professional detractors like ourselves will pick up on that pretty quickly, yo.
What about when you're doing? How much can a good or bad producer? I'm obsessed with the new Sabbath record, as is Jim, and we credit a lot of that.
Stop right there. Why are you obsessed with it?
It's so much better than I imagined it could be. I love the lyrics. I love the tone. I love the music. I love all of it.
Okay, well, the good campfire story is, why did you imagine it would be so much less?
Because they haven't done one since 1978, so it was almost like the last Van Halen record. You guys didn't do one for a long time, and the last Van Halen record could fit in between Van Halen 2 and Women and Children First.
And where does the Sabbath record fit in?
It could fit into 1971.
1970, right after Master Reality, between Paranoid and Master Reality.
And are the songs quality?
Fucking amazing.
I understand that the shoes and haircut are correct, that it fits the neighborhood, but then there's such a thing as the good stuff from that time period and the not so good. All the bands have it. You know, we all do that.
Yes.
But this is good material.
That's what it was. It's almost like if you go out with a girl and she's very pretty and you can't believe that she's just going to want to blow you over and over. Like, oh my God, that's how I felt with this record. It was that fucking good. Everything about it is more than I had ever hoped for.
Let's retrace this.
I love Dave's face when you told me.
We're running past great subjects. We just ran past Mount Rainier here.
Well, you're saying you're asking why did I not expect it to be? Not that I didn't expect it, but almost like it was too good to be true that I would love it as much.
You always expect it to be garbage because most of us turn out to be fat, idle, indolent slobs who no longer pick up their instruments unless it's time to make $1. They usually lost their $1, which is the only reason they're coming back. They're no longer in contact with anything that's happening outside, and I'm not speaking specifically about Sabbath, but the general rule of thumb is that you are a product of a neighborhood, whether you know it or not. When you're opening act for a million other shows and you're hearing the music coming through those brick walls as you're warming up, if you're working in clubs and bars, and it's particularly the people you can't stand and you hate that you learn the most from, as a critic. You find your way, you find your shape like that. Ultimately, I don't call it, it's called the friction of time. A family, friends, medical, travel, age itself, wealth, the lack of wealth, too much wealth, that's one of your favorites, etc. Like a big yoke on somebody's shoulders, it slows down and it kills the artist. They literally gain weight, lose the height in their voice. There walks a lady we all know. That's a product of the gut, son. That's not magic. It's not miracle. It's what you ate for breakfast, and more importantly, what you shouldn't have ate if you're going to hit that high note. I suggest you hit the fucking high note based on how much you charge for tickets these days, and that applies to myself. Now, I'm sort of on a tangent here, but we always expect the very worst because these are perishable skills. However, you can sing the high note in Stairway to Heaven all the way up into your 70s if you keep your horses running. You follow? And most of us don't do that. Not past the age of 35. 40.
I expect the worst, or not, because I never want to be disappointed. But I'm like that with everything. With everything in my life, like whether it's a date, you just never want to be disappointed in anything. So I don't have a specific thing, whether it's for music or a movie or a comedian. I just don't want to just have that,
Yeah, and you want it to be, like in your heart, you want it to be so good because you love Sabbath.
You love them.
It was almost like, the first 5-6 Van Halen records up to 1984. You guys were in a zone, touring, put out great music, not a bad song on any of those records. Then you guys go away for a long time. Are you still back in that zone? Same thing with Sabbath, with Ozzy.
Right.
Those 8 records with Ozzy were just phenomenal, one after another. And then they're gone for so long. Can you bring that magic back?
Well, wait, Ozzy lives in his own little world. What's the joke? I live in my own little world. At least they know me there, so leave a message.
Right.
Since Ozzy is diagonally parked in a parallel universe permanently and always has been, he kind of never left. So let's look at the other members of the band.
But is the magic still there?
The only thing that changed with Ozzy was the haircuts and some new ink on the left arm.
Right, but I mean the magic of them together.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys, Tony and Geezer and Bill, were playing in other stuff. Doing other projects, working with Ronnie James Dio. So they were out. Everyone was playing, just like you were playing. But when you guys got the band,
maybe it's the word playing. There's a difference between playing and obsessive, determined chasing. When you're chasing something, you may not even be able to articulate what you're chasing, but you are obsessed with it. All musicians will tell you that. So will all boxers, architects, ballet dancers. You follow, doctors in medical school, etc. There's a single-minded obsessive that goes. It's not playing. It's a determined chase, like your life depends on it. Maybe it really does. You follow, and a lot of that comes from, this is funny. I sat around with a bunch of these young guys who start in sumo wrestling. I lived in Japan for the last year there.
Are you back here, by the way, or are you still living there?
No, completed my year overseas. I'm back. And there were half a dozen of these guys, the Rikishi. They start living there like SEAL team guys in the dorms and stuff when they're about 16 years old. We went around the circle. They said we had dinner together, with all these new fighters, whatever. And they says, what motivates you? Expecting me to do the usual Japanese horse shit of honor, family, determination for the best. Excuse me, I almost fell asleep here. I told him, no, I'm motivated by fear and revenge primarily. Greed, if I can get past the first two.
but dynamics, Jim talked about dynamics too.
Maybe Sabbath has some fear now.
Oh.
You did? You stop fucking around when you get a little fear back in the breakfast bowl every morning. You get a little older, you get medical issues, What our guitar player friend there is not, he's got cancer.
Yeah,
is he not? This is a public scenario. It's not something that's a secret. And you are driven by those two things, It's not cool to say it, but we are supremely motivated by fear and revenge. And when you lose those, something happens to your music. Something happens to your dancing, your lyrics. It happens to your prose. Something happens to your politics. Something happens to your warrior arts. You follow? And it's very rare that you'll hear somebody say it. Usually you reach for it's in the pursuit of the greater goal of, no. I just feel like my wristwatch is about to kick my ass because it's moving so much faster than my lower back and my left knee.
Right.
And I sure wish I have some revenge on those prick fucks who are still paying me 6 cents a record. I want to go out and make another better record and make a little better royalty, so fuck you in the back of my history. That's a little revenge. And these are part of the things that motivate us in the band, in Van Halen, you follow? And maybe Sabbath got a little bit of that back, and it compels. It has a healthy drive form to it, as a positive side of it, like competition. Coming out of the Woodstock era, one world, one love. We're here to just be happy to get along. I don't know. Competition brings out, it sharpens the axe blade equally on other sides. Nothing stirs the blood quite so much as the trumpet that heralds another guy's achievement. Like the guy who's on stage right fucking now. Whoa, he's killing it out there. No, I can't talk anymore. I got to warm up. And you can, you learn that as well. These are elements that you usually don't talk about in public.
What did you just say? That was really about nothing, something like another guy's achievement? That's interesting. About almost like nothing motivates you more than or someone more than another guy doing really well.
Oh, you hear that trumpet that heralds, look what Bobby did. Fuck that trumpet and fuck you, Bob. And this compels. This will compel you through law school and medical school. This will compel you as a downtown canvas and ink paint artist. This will compel you as a dancer, whether you're ballet or breaking. This will compel you in all of the fine arts. That's my only area of expertise. But even in fist-to-face confrontation, the best friends, the best brothers. You saw that movie about Mickey Ward with Wahlberg and
Fighter.
Christian Bale.
There you go. There's a constant push and pull, a constant competition between those fellas that ultimately brought out the best and solved a lot of issues for both of them, But we don't talk about that usually. I just saw an interview with Carole King, Tapestry, wasn't anybody stay in one place. Okay, nothing could be more winsome and transparent and more folk songy or whatever. And you know what she said? She said, man, I used to work at the goddamn Brill building. She said there were 92 pianos in little rooms there, and you had to compete to win, not just to write a good song, but if you didn't beat everybody else at writing an amazing song, you went home fucking hungry. She says, I'm glad I went through that. She said, it got the very best out of me. And I don't care whether you're catching a football or a drift on a really good chorus. I think that adds up. Certainly did for Van Halen.
Fair and revenge. Great motivator.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys did, it's the Sabbath and the Van Halen thing is pretty much parallel. You guys both being away for a long time, getting the guys back and putting an album out and doing a sellout tour and putting out a great product.
Well, yeah, it's, I think you don't miss the water till the well runs dry. All right. Like Ozzy never changed. He lives in his own little world. All right. So he never really left. I think perhaps some of the other fellas, just from word around the campfire, from what I can tell, you don't, it's not so much gentrify as you normalize. You get married, you have kids, you're going to the PTA meetings. Now you have vacations. If your wife works, she's got 2 weeks vacation. Where are we going? We're going to down the shore. We're going to the Club Med. We're going to and you start to normalize. You follow? It's a normal world. We're the ones who are abnormal. And there's always that push and pull, to join the clan. You follow? And when you do, a lot of times it turns out that your rage and your craziness was way more interesting than the real you.
Yep.
I think we touched on this before when last time I was here, and we were talking about some of the fellows who come out of rehab, and it's great that they're still alive, and it's great that, we've saved another human being, but Jesus Christ, man, you were way more interesting when you were all fucked up.
See, it's weird because for me, like, I was single. I got married at 47. It was my first marriage, and I had a kid at 47 too. So I was always like, I can't get any work done if I'm married and I got a kid and I have to go to PTA meetings and change diapers and watch them and stuff. But meanwhile, since I've gotten married, I've done 100 times more work in my career because I'm totally focused on that. I'm 100%, I've gotten so much more work done because I know those little moments I have, I got to focus that 2 hour window. Before I would just get up at 11 in the morning. I'm like, I got all day to do whatever. And I was only 50% productive.
You have to obsess. If you really want to compete, it's going to take a big chunk out of your normal real life, And we always act surprised. Jesus, the divorce rate amongst really good policemen is 80%. Whoa, what a surprise. Oh, the divorce rate against successful musicians is 90%. Whoa, what a surprise. Successful politicians. And the list is long. Well, the only thing I don't accept anymore is the surprise. How can you be fucking surprised anymore? It's like when we see these baseball players taking drugs and doing steroids. Stop. The only thing I will not accept is your surprise.
Yeah.
Everybody half the people in these hallways here are taking prescription meds.
All of
and
them.
Half the people downstairs actually own those prescriptions.
Right.
So you don't like the fake outrage or the fake shock or the fake surprise that people... Why do you think people do it? Why do you think they act surprised?
Because it's fun to be outraged. It's fun, just ask the French. And you can throw up your hands and, oh my God, you put your hand to your forehead. It's like every time some dame kisses another girl on the MTV Awards show, we have to act surprised.
Yeah.
How many times has that been going on?
It gives you something to tweet about. It gives you something to have an opinion on. And,
sure.
Something to bring up at a party.
Well, that's when it becomes fine art. Art is where you're figuring out where you are in the map, okay? You see somebody walk out on that TV screen and you go, I wouldn't wear those shoes, but the haircut's cool. And you're like on a map and you go, okay, that's where I am on the haircut map. Okay, who's he fucking? Ooh, nice chick. Okay, she's pretty smart. I like smart chicks. Okay, now you know where you are with that one right there, like this. But he's got a drug problem. Well, what kind of drugs? And you start calibrating yourself more than anything else. And that's what we use. Characters like myself and characters like politicians and characters like the Kardashians, our favorite football players and our really unfavorite actors, etc. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, just imagine Dave used to have his bodyguards were midgets. Imagine if that was in the paper today, like in Page 6, that he's walking around. Everybody would be offended.
Well, you can't even call them that now.
I know. Well, little people, dwarfs, or whatever they were. Yeah, and used to walk in Studio 54 with 3 of them behind them, walking in, making a big scene, and it was awesome.
Well, it depends. Are these little people? Are these ethnic little people? I don't think that little people is a big issue. Okay, I think that there is a whole lot of politics involved in what you're involved in now, okay, in terms of music, etc. The economy is upside down. You got a lot of issues like gun control, and it seems like a lot of the way you vote goes along with the neighborhood. If you wear a cowboy hat, then you're supposed to vote a certain way. Make sense? If you don't, then you're supposed to vote another way. And when did music become one type of politics? When did show business become one style of one single approach? Are you guys gun owners, for example?
No.
Do you know? No.
No.
Mm-mm. Well, I'm carrying one right now.
How'd you get it up here?
No, it's drawn on there, actually. Strap for life. One shot, one love. I don't believe in high capacity magazines. And, my version of gun control is I get to have guns in anybody that I certify personally.
Sure. I think that's everybody's. That's everybody's version, but people just don't say it that honestly. But that's what we all feel.
Yeah. But, times are crazier than ever out there. So, it's, where does it say that whatever neighborhood or whatever kind of music, like in heavy metal, you're supposed to be a gun owner, right? There's the surprise move, right? As I say it, you go, he's right. If I wear a cowboy hat for a living, and I mean, like in showbiz, I'm supposed to be a gun owner, right?
Yeah, country singer.
Country.
Yeah.
What if I'm a folk singer with dreadlocks and I'm from below 14th Street? Then I'm left wing and I'm anti-gun. Is that accurate?
Yeah, fairly.
What if I was born in Tel Aviv, Israel? Uh-oh.
But if you got the dreadlocks,
mitigating factor.
Hold on. No, but the same hippie mentality. You're the same hippie guy. Dreadlocks, anti-establishment. That means if you're probably born in Israel, you're pro-Palestinian. If you're that age, you probably think that Israel belongs out of Gaza and the West Bank.
That has come full circle. You could be pro-Palestinian.
If you're young Israeli guy with the dreadlocks, that's your rebellion. It's probably you're angry at the state of Israel.
I always wondered how that works now over there. You have a combination of politics that I don't think is ever going to get solved. You think the Mideast is ever going to get solved?
No, because I think a lot of it's based in some of it's based in politics and some of it's based in religion. I don't think it's ever going to get fixed. And over land, because you're never going to resolve a dispute when people just want land.
What kind of land are you talking? Are you talking about the Palestinians?
Yeah, and the Israelis. I mean, that's just I don't see there ever be because there's too many radicals on both sides. Like even if there's a peace, somebody will try to bomb Jews on a bus, or somebody will say, "Fuck it, let's build a settlement here." There's always going to be somebody on either side who wants to continue. Even if they don't know they want to continue this conflict, it's never going to get solved. No,
I think it's going to continue, and I think it's going to expand, and I think it's going to continue to carry over to the United States. I think we're going to see it more and more in Europe, etc. I think that as oil starts to run out, and as energy and so forth starts to change around, that we're going to see a whole lot more activities here. But I don't think anything's going to get solved in the Mideast.
I agree.
I think it sounds like it's falling apart even more in Egypt and whatnot now.
Unless as the oil runs out, we fucking develop an alternative source. I mean, we do have a great power source, in the sun, and if we really do use that and figure that out.
Wait a minute. Did you guys see the thing about Trump where he built his golf course in Scotland, is it? And that was a big issue because it was a pristine wilderness, with cranes and storks and whatever. And he got rid of the sand dunes or something, and don't tell me the gods aren't comedians. Now he has these huge windmills that they've planted into the water out there. Each one of them is as tall as Trump Tower. They make super loud noises because they're turbines. Each turbine can power 62,000 houses worth of electricity. These are monster skyscraper-sized things. And they're going to put dozens and dozens of them all right off the shore, blocking the shit out of his view. And now he's in contest with that.
Oh, that's why they're doing it? To stick it to him?
Well, I got to wonder if somebody behind the scenes isn't saying, hey, look, if it's a difference between a quarter of a mile or 2 clicks in a kilometer, fuck him.
I was, right? He's always railing
know?
about those. I was wondering why. So that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, why he's always railing about the turbines and all that stuff.
That's like, loud, right?
Yeah, it's loud. It's not, environmentally safe. He has all these issues with him. I always.
Well, it's blocking his view.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a new golf course club with a thing, a lodge and a restaurant and stuff. Nobody's going to do those. It looks like science fiction when you put those up, doesn't it? It looks like you landed on another planet, and that's Battlestar Galactica shit or something.
Well, a lot of people didn't like that he won that battle. I I mean, he's a smart guy, but a lot of people did not like that he won that battle and actually because they fought him so hard on even using that land, and he won. He got to use the land, so I guess that's their way of getting some. It's like the way that fucking politicians are keeping the UFC, the unions are keeping the UFC out of New York by backdooring through the scumbag Sheldon Silver and the other politicians. That's what they did. They were mad at the Trump that he had this thing built, so they fuck him. They're backdooring through some Scottish politicians, have these things put up in the water, and we'll fuck them that way.
First thing I thought of.
Right.
There's like 25 miles or something of space happening there, and now he's got to go through years and years of dealing in the courts and litigating. I gotta guess, But it was beautiful. I haven't seen exactly what it looks like. I've seen the workup in before when it was empty, and there's just the guys walking along the empty space of beach or what have you.
So are you going hotline or no?
No.
Oh, you had your hand out. I thought you were trying to grab a phone. Do we have to break, buddy? It's
no. Yeah, we should.
It's 7:54. We should take a break because we have some live reads, and then we'll come back.
And you want to mention
play some golf?
Yeah.
You gotta.
We'll disassemble a sand dune.
You right,
Dave? I don't know if you know Jim.
AMA.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. My two things. My special airs tonight on Epix at epixhd.com at 10 p.m., and I'm doing an AMA on Reddit at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Sam. The Ask Me Anything, 1 p.m. It said 11:30 on Reddit's website, but it is actually 1 o'clock that I'll be doing that.
He's doing a 1-hour comedy special premieres tonight on Epix.
What happens in one of your comedy specials? Please describe. Give us an outline of what happens here.
A really, really a very
great title though, American Degenerate.
Yes, it's a very funny cold open, an hour of mediocrity, and then I wave thanks, good night.
Is this you speaking? Is this a speaking issue, or are you doing theater?
No, it's stand-up comedy, just me for just regular stand-up.
Where did you film this? This sounds great.
Boston. I shot it at Somerville, Mass. At the end of March.
Why did you pick Somerville, Mass?
I love Boston crowds, and they've been good to me my whole career. And I've been dreaming about shooting a special there because I knew that the venue would sell very fast. And I knew that I would get the response that I really wanted.
There's a lot of history in Boston crowds. What was the name of the club? There was a very little club there where a lot of people came out of, and they did even a documentary on it.
Was it a comedy club?
Yeah.
There was probably, it might have been Nick's. Nick's has a great history there.
Yeah, maybe.
Garofalo was one of the
might have been Nick's
there.
Or Played Against Sam's was one. But I think Nick's Comedy Club is the one.
And Dave, Jim had a big problem with having a smoke machine at a show because he wanted to have the smoke because of the whole thing with the Great White Fire
with the lights and all
in
that
Rhode
shit.
Island. You can't have any smoke machines in like Boston or something like that on stage with
certain venues. If they found a workaround,
was a tragedy. I can see the look of loss.
But you know what? I thought
Jim wanted some. He wanted like a right. You wanted smoke when you came out.
I thought not when I came out, but they do it before the show for certain. It gives the light a certain quality, and all the comedy specials do it. They have the smoke not during my show, or not to walk out dramatically, but just to give the lights a certain quality.
Oh, absolutely, you do it. It's airborne. It doesn't. It's called fog.
Fog. Yes,
but it doesn't hug the floor.
Right.
And what happens is when you float smoke, what looks like smoke or mist through lighting beams, you can actually see the beams for the first time.
In Boston, you can't do that. There's all these regulations. And so I was panicking because we already booked the venue and we couldn't find a workaround. And then I called Louis C.K. actually. I'm like, you shot in Boston. How did you use these smoke machines? And he's like, I never fucking used one of those. They're ridiculous. You don't need them. And I was so ashamed that I ever wanted one. And it looked much better without one than it would have with one. So it worked out fucking great. And the special's on tonight, so I hope people like it. And, check out my Reddit AMA at 1 o'clock.
How long does it take you to get ready for a special like this?
This one took 10 months. From the time I shot the last one till this one was a 10-month window to build the material and shoot it, and which was actually soon. Normally it would take about a year, but I have built a lot of material quickly. And I was depressed to have to drop the material.
Okay, now we've run into each other, for example, down at the Comedy Cellar. And as you build your material, are you going like modular? I don't even know if that's the right word. But you'll do the first maybe 10 minutes, and then do you go run it in front of people? You run it through some ears, or do you just compile? So you have the whole show, and then you test it for the first time on Epics?
No. I'll go out. I'll do 15, 20 minutes at a time at the cellar. When I feel like I have about 30 new minutes, which is what I have about now, I'll go back on the road. I'll do 30 to 35 new minutes, play with the crowd a little bit. All of a sudden, I'm at an hour. And in playing with the crowd, I'll get more material. And then I'll start working that hour. And then in, say, 8 months, that hour will be very solid, and I'll be ready to shoot it. And that's kind of the pattern I'm in. Where, I start with just the cellar and get that little... It usually takes a couple of months to get the first few minutes because I'm stuck. I've just dropped an hour, and I'm like, what do I do?
And I'll go to the real small, the B or C rooms, the B or C comedy rooms on the outskirts.
To work out, yeah.
To work out, not the main rooms, not the A rooms.
Where's a B and a C room? What's a B and a C room?
Holiday Inn.
Yeah, Holiday Inn. There's a place called or in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Little small rooms.
They got the banquet room at the Holiday Inn. There's comedy clubs there. It's it's a B or a C room.
Hi, we're Sausalito, and Jim's going to be up in just a second.
Yeah, you work out. You play around. You let the crowd know what you're doing.
Totally get
this. It's fun.
Totally
I love it. Love that process. And then you go into the improvs, which are more expensive rooms for the audience to get into, so they're paying more money. And by then the hour is fairly together, and now it's a matter of chopping and adding and cut. You know how it is. It's just
so it takes you about a year. Do you base your entire, we'll call it an hour, you base your whole hour on one general subject? Do you keep returning to that, or do you just start with news of the day and then compile from there?
Whatever sparks me the first time. Like this time it took me 2 months to get anything. I was just doing dick jokes, and I felt awful about every night. I was bombing, having terrible shows, and then I went to my friend's son's bris. And it fucking shocked me so much to hear this kid screaming during a circumcision that I went on stage that night and talked about it for 20 minutes. And it killed. And that started.
What do you mean it killed?
It got big laughs because the emotion with it, like you talked about with the song, there was real emotion there. So it was a live event, and I spoke about it honestly, and the crowd laughed. So then I fucking took some of that and I began working it, and then from there I branched into Paula Deen and all the other stuff.
Anthony Weiner,
of course.
Fucking yeah, but that's how it was. But that first hunk was what it took to spark.
Who was the author of the Lemon Cookie? What is it, Proust or whatever, the famous the remembrance of things long past or whatever. He bites into the lemon cookie and he starts remembering his past, and it takes him 3 full novels worth of remembering before he's done. I think it's called Remembrance of Things Past or whatever. It's a famous classic. And do you use television for that, or are you a newspaper junkie, or is it interaction with folks or whatever? I'll preface it with this. Most of what I'm getting that goes into my notebooks, my dog, Russell, you can see him on my Twitter feed and all that shit, is a cattle dog, which means he's got real short little legs. It's for ducking under cattle, like so forth. Squats way low to the ground. And when we walk, before he trots, his pace is real slow. So you don't want to trot him. His walking pace is unbelievably slow. So when I'm walking that dog, you never question why that guy is moving so slowly past us. You'll just continue your conversation. You'll just continue critiquing whatever it is you were critiquing and whatever. You'll never even notice me because that's just a guy walking a dog. Now, if it's midnight and I'm out by myself, you have every right to be afeared.
Yeah, right. Right.
This guy's trouble looking for a place to happen, like this. But with the dog, all is forgiven. Nobody even blinks, right? And I walk just so slow, and I'm memorizing everything because I can speak a couple languages now too. So I'm constant moving, just slow. And I'm going to say 85% of what goes into my notebooks comes from other people. Other people arguing. What's the old expression? The only one who listens to both sides of the argument is the neighbors. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm one of the neighbors,
right?
And so most of what I'm getting is from other folks, but I know folks who write basically from the news, who can bring it out of novels and books and what have you, Where
it is some other people, like with the Paula Deen stuff. What bothered me was everybody's the shock. I'm tired of your shock, or I don't get your surprise. That was what it was. The outrage around Paula Deen annoyed me so much. So on Twitter, that started to spark me. So I started to attack people's fake out, and that's what it was. Right, it was other people. It was my annoyance at their reaction to something, and I didn't buy their reaction. So then you start talking about that on stage, and I tie that in with the circumcision because I'm like, American culture is very odd. What we embrace and what sparks us in a public debate, and that's the segue from circumcision. You talk about American culture. culture is really weird that we embrace circumcision, but we don't like clitoral circumcision. And then you go right into fucking Paula Deen. So you have like a little segue there.
Yeah.
You know, so you know what I mean? You have to tie it together somehow.
No, you need Jim to tie it for you.
Yeah. You have to find some little fucking strand that can string them together so it makes some kind of sense. Or at least for me, it's easier to remember when I'm saying it. Maybe that's half it. I have to remember, you know, the fucking ankle is connected to the shin, which is connected to, that's kind of how I remember. And that's what helps me put together that to remember to say it in a certain order.
How much of comedy is complaining?
Mine is 150%.
A lot of it.
That was a fast answer.
Oh, yeah. That's all it is. I complain and I'm on stage complaining.
Sure, because there's really very few funny things in a machine working. But when the machine breaks or when there's a problem, that to me is where the interesting discussion comes in. I had a great drive on the way to work today. The sun was out. Who gives a fuck? Oh, driving to work, there was a fucking accident. There was a truck flipped over. Really? That's the story I want to hear. That's what I'm more interested in. And that's what I'm more likely to laugh at. I went on a date. We kissed. It was magic. Oh, fuck you. I went on a date. You know, I couldn't get a hard on, and you know, her
and then
feet
she put
stunk.
her teeth in the drawer.
Yeah,
and she put her wig in the drawer.
That's what I want to hear. That's
she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to sleep with the drawer."
Yeah, it's a fine line because you talk about your relationships and you're talking bad about your wife or women in general because that's what's going on. And then people go, "You're sexist. You hate women." I'm like, no, it's just, you know, my chick's acting up. Or am I gonna? I'm not. Yeah, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna talk about the walk in the park that we took the other day. But you know,
I've tried to explain American humor to the Japanese at length. Okay, they don't understand, by and large, the general thinking of sarcasm, or making fun of each other, or busting each other's chops.
Right.
Or that when you make fun of somebody in a joke, you follow, that's an insult, and that's never funny if somebody's being insulted. The only thing that could possibly be funny, to my short experience there, was if something unfortunate that was unpreventable happened to somebody, but one person didn't do it to the other.
Right.
You follow? You want to hear an example?
Sure.
This was one of the few jokes that I could come up with that they would laugh at, that they would think is funny. Three guys, an airplane crash lands in the desert. Three guys go wandering in the desert. A blind fella, a deaf fella, and a fella in a wheelchair. Do you know this one?
No.
They're wandering along. All of a sudden, the deaf fella says, "Look," he says, "up ahead, a sign that says Magic Lake." They go running up to the Magic Lake. The deaf fella jumps into the water, pulls his head out. He goes, "Fellas, you won't believe it. My hearing has returned." He says, "Louis," to the blind man, "come into the water." Drags him into the water. Louis throws his head up out of the water, says, "My God, my sight has returned." They wheel Manny, the guy in the wheelchair, into the water. They pull the wheelchair out. Bingo, the wheelchair has brand new wheels. It's okay because nobody did it to the other guy.
Right. Other than God punishing Manny and his bad legs.
And the land of the gods is the land of tears. So, and this is how the mechanism actually works. I don't think there's any laughter in heaven. I think shit has to go wrong. I think the best laughs, the best humor comes from when things go wrong. Then they get worse. Then they get worse. And then you just gotta laugh.
Yeah.
It's the only release. It's the only way to draw a sword and cleave onto it. You follow?
If I had the crowd groaning after like 10 minutes, I go, "Look, there's no happy endings with my jokes. If you're expecting one, just go home and watch a romantic comedy because they're all my jokes end badly."
Well, a lot of jokes, the best.
It doesn't have to be wrapped up nicely like everything else, like every little movie or sitcom at the end.
You don't have to teach a lesson in your
I don't have
joke.
to teach a lesson. There's no lesson at the end. Hey, it just ends. It peters out, and it's like, holy shit! It fades to black, and you go, "What the fuck just happened?"
The best stuff, you're not sure if you should laugh. The best stuff, you want to laugh, but you're not sure if you want anybody to see you doing that laugh. The best stuff makes you cringe a little bit, makes you kind of squeeze your fist a little bit, like, why am I laughing? It causes a lot of questions, you follow? And the best comedy, best humor, I'll call it, on television is when you turn off the sound and you can't tell if it's drama or comedy at all. The best stuff is delivered very straight faced. There's not a lot of winking and elbows, and knees, and and that kind of even observational is it's I think it's in subtext. It's very quiet, like the best acting. Not a lot of eyebrows, not a lot of, extra.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you see it also when we drive on the freeway, you see the giant posters in Hollywood, of the comedians and the fellas who are doing television shows, who have sitcoms and so forth now. And the fellas who are making the big faces with the big popped eyes and like that don't last very long.
No.
It is the undercurrent, it's the stuff you can't quite tell if this is humor or not. It's something that is a nice fine balance there, I think. Who's got that going these days?
No, me and Jim used to always make fun of the promos for the sitcoms, like during a football game or something like that. They always used to show the couple dancing. So that would make you go, oh, they must be having fun. It must be a fun show because the fat guy's dancing with the hot wife. So we better tune in because it looks a lot of fun.
And it's never fun.
It's never fun.
No,
there's no jokes there whatsoever. So they just try to cover up by dancing.
If he walked in and Allen Iverson was fucking his wife, like that would be fun.
Right? Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm fat and she's cheating on me with somebody who's in shape and not white.
Or just the wife. Just getting slapped is not funny. Do you
follow? Well, we disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think punched is funny. You're right. Good point. Slapped isn't harsh enough.
No, okay. Three Stooges slapped is funny.
Yes.
Okay,
sure.
That's iconic. That's classic. But what passes for funny in a lot of modern sitcoms is the wife simply turns and slaps the supposedly dumb husband.
Yeah, in the back of the head, or oh, you, and he's been scolded again.
And if he's such a dumbass perennial 12-year-old who's never going to get out of junior high school, how is it his two kids are geniuses?
Right.
That is a routine.
And how did she marry him, and why did she fuck him? Like, how dumb is she to open her legs from this fat lump who she obviously hates?
I've been watching Japanese television, which is all, a lot of, remember early heavy metal, like in Hit Parader magazine and whatnot? Every single photo, everybody looks like they're being electrocuted, and you go, ah!
Yeah. Wow.
I'll call it my dentist is rich photo. Parts 1 through 200. Like this.
Yeah.
That's Japanese acting. That's Japanese commercials. That's Japanese comedy. That's Japanese angry. That's Japanese surprise and whatnot. And it's fascinating to the degree where I had Slingbox, where we could watch American television or whatnot. I didn't even bother. I felt like I was transported to a whole nother planet there. Who's got a good comedy show on American television today?
Louis C.K.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Jim Jeffries got a great show.
I haven't seen Jim's show. I hear it's very funny. I have not seen it.
What's the nature of Jim's show?
It's basically his life, basically sort of like a Louis C.K. It's called Legit. Amy Schumer's got a great show on Comedy Central.
Amy's got a really funny show on Comedy Central. Anthony Jeselnik's show is very funny on Comedy Central.
It's called Jeselnik Offensive. It's basically the Tonight Show with, sort of that kind of theme jokes. With really harsh jokes. And he's got a panel and
Comedy Central seems to be the pivot for most of this, yo.
Those two are Comedy Central. FX has Jim Jeffries and Louis. I'm sure there's a couple others I'm forgetting too.
These new channels are racing, huh? What happened to regular television?
I haven't seen it. Eric's saying Mark Maron on IFC. I heard it's a good show.
Yeah, Mark Maron's got a show on IFC.
Well, I've heard Mark on the radio?
Yeah, he's got his podcast.
I hear the podcast. And at the end, Mark gets very serious now.
Yeah.
At the end of his podcast, I feel like I'm being therapized. I feel like he's going to look at his watch and go, "Well, Dave, our time's up. See you on the next Wednesday." He has become very philosophical.
Yeah.
Has become very almost a little bit like a life coach or something.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that in terms of the internet, which is the great, all-expansive, it's the whole future for the rest of our lives, at least in our time or whatever, that the folks who have commandeered it, who are running the fucking show, are the humorists and the stand-ups and the comics and the fellas who do what you do for a living. It's not the disc jockeys. It's not the rock and rollers. It's not the celebs, the news faces, the news teams that come from newsrooms or whatnot. You might have said, it might be Larry King or the bastard son of Larry King. It might be the bastard grandson of a Walter Cronkite. It might be a Roth, who's used to being in front of large people. No, it's the humorists, it's the stand-ups, it's the comics, the comedians, the players who have completely commandeered all of the best websites, all the best blogs, all the best broadcasting, etc. It's, one right after the other. What do you think? Weigh in on this.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, think who's out there. Think who's actually, doing this stuff. It's yourselves. You got Rogan out there. You got the list is long.
For podcasts,
Jay Moore. You got Jay Moore. Then also you got a Bill Maher who does the great. His show is great.
Maher should run for office, yo.
He's great.
That's my one big disappointment about Bill Maher is how come you're not running for president?
He probably has too many. He's probably fucked too many chicks without it. You know what I mean? All these girls that come out of the woodwork. As a comedian, you can do whatever you want. But once you start running for office, too many girls that come out and go, and he fucked my ass and then my mouth.
See, that's my theory why you never ran for office.
I couldn't run for office. No way. Running from office.
We'll be right back with Jim Florentine, David Lee Roth, and then in a little while, the great Anderson Silva.
Tell him, Fred.
The Virus. Sirius XM. This is the Opie and Anthony Show.